UFM.
Good evening once again, and thank you for joining us on UFM. And maybe I should say that welcome to the Gauteng Provincial Legislature's Committee Chairpersons Roundtable discussion. We've been talking about this for a greater part of the day today. This evening, for the next 2 hours, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be profiling the Gauteng Provincial Legislature as the Parliament of Gauteng through its oversight work and the work of the different committees, and all of this done to promote transparency and accountability by highlighting how these committees work directly, and how their work contributes towards service delivery, as well as oversight as far as governance is concerned. Now, we're open to taking your questions, we've been saying, and your comments as well as your suggestions. We ask that you send a WhatsApp with your name and the area where you live. You use our WhatsApp line 076-260-2815. And of course, the Gauteng Provincial Legislature wants to hear from you. That's the whole idea of this discussion, to engage and dialogue with you. That number, once again, 076-260-2815. My name is Malik Padcash Malloy, and I'm going to be with you for the next 2 hours. So we're going to structure our discussion in the following way. We'll have a discussion with our three guests. I'm going to introduce them to you. We'll go through quite a few issues that have to do with the portfolio committees that they lead, different departments. And then, while we have a discussion, should there be an issue that you want to ask about, you're welcome to send a voice note. Those voice notes will be played in an hour. This is UFM. We're live from the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, the Committee Chairpersons Roundtable discussion. And welcome. And if I may, let me introduce our guests for this evening. Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Health and Wellness, Ezra Letswalo. Good evening and welcome. It's a pleasure to chat to you again.
Good evening to you as well as the listeners.
We appreciate it. The Oversight Department there would be the Department of Health and Wellness, where the MEC is Nomantung Komo Ralehoko. So you can almost prepare yourself there accordingly. And then, by the way, these introductions are not in any particular order. Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Social Development, Lo Chokwe. Good evening, welcome.
Good evening, sir.
It's a pleasure that you've taken time to be with us here this evening.
And good evening to your listeners.
Thank you. The Oversight Department there is the Department of Social Development, where the MEC, Faith Mazibuko, is in office currently. Then we, last at least for this evening, I'm sure we'll have an opportunity again in the future, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, or COCTA, is Mzi Khumalo. Good evening, and let me welcome you once again.
Good evening to you and good evening to your listeners.
Thank you. Once again, thank you for welcoming us to the legislature, and we're looking forward to delving into quite a few issues with you, gentlemen. And we appreciate the opportunity that you're granting us and the people of Gauteng to engage, on different issues. Thank you so much. If I may, I'm going to start with Mzi Khumalo as the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. But perhaps before we get into the issues, maybe I should ask you to explain, to the people of Gauteng in the simplest possible terms as to how do these committees work with the departments. What is the role of the committees in relation to the mandate that the department would sort of have? And then the second phase of my question will be maybe the inter-working relationship between the committees.
I think the first thing that we need to understand is what is the mandate of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. And there are three mandates there. The first one is oversight. The second one is public participation. The third one is lawmaking. Mm-hmm. So the committees of the legislature plays an oversight role over the department in order to enhance these three areas that I was speaking about. The second point to understand is that department department's budget are passed by the legislature. In other words, we've got to look at what commitment have they made insofar as service delivery is concerned and their mandates is concerned, so that we either support or we reject their budget or amend their budget where possible. So in most cases, there will be those particular engagements. We will then generate a report, which report goes to the legislature, wherein we will say, we will support this budget pending the following things to be done by the department itself. And we're focusing largely on issues that relate to service delivery. In short, that's how we and in between, as I said, the other element is public participation. In between, we're bringing in the different sectors that have got interest in the specific portfolio committee for them to enhance our ability to hold the executive to account as such. And the last one is that where there's a need for an act or a bill to be developed, we will do that. Or a coordination of such a bill with the National Parliament or NCOP, we do that working with the departments. There is mechanism. One of those mechanisms that we're trying to develop in the legislature is an IT system that would assist individuals, since we are living in that era of IT. The other mechanism is that you can send your own petition alone as an individual. You don't have to be a group of people for you to do that. Write a petition to either the MEC or write a petition to me as a chairperson to complain on a particular matter. So, or you can come to the legislature when we have the committee's meeting. Public is allowed to come, and you can take advantage of that and engage the department or the committee on your own matters. The other mechanism that is closer at home is you can go to the nearest local government municipal offices, particularly the ward committees that exist within the communities, raise your issues with them, and they will escalate your issues to ourselves. And if it's a national issue, we will then escalate such to national government. Yeah, we on the basis of a matter before us, we can establish what we call a joint committee, joint ad hoc committee, so that we deal with matters before us. For instance, in our committee, we realize that many of us have got interest in dealing with matters that relates to Mfuleni, but we go there as individual committees. We've reached an agreement that we need to have an ad hoc committee, look at scope, how scope has got interest on it, look at any other committee that has interest in that particular municipalities, and work together to come up with solutions to the municipality. For instance, because if we don't do that, you might end up with what I call a presentation fatigue, where people come and present until they don't know what they are talking about.
Thank you so much for that. Let's get into the issues, that you are overseeing as part of your work. I'm going to start obviously with an observation that one would have made that the departmental budget for this current financial year, 25-26, was greatly reduced. From what I believe is just over R1 billion the previous year to just over 550 million rand. And please correct me if I get the figures wrong. What's the reason behind this? And in your view, will the department still be able to meet all of its obligations with this reduction?
Yeah. No, we were aware that the budget was reduced from just over R1 million to 553 million rand. That was largely, that is because largely the budget of the department for it to shoot high it was because of the intervention that the provincial government would have made around issues of the electricity. You know, when the load shedding was high in Gauteng, the provincial government, it is not their mandate. They then initiated a process wherein there were transformers that they would replace in communities. And that budget lied with the department itself, and then department will then appointed the City of Johannesburg, City Power in particular, to be the agency of that. In the current financial year, the budget is still with the City Power. They are completing all the projects that needs to be completed, and therefore the government felt that until such happens, they will not be in a position to appropriate more funds, whilst the other funds have not been finished, and that is why you see that the budget has gone down. But also there was almost like a moratorium of some kind insofar as the appointment of personnel is concerned, which today the MEC reported that Treasury has since, because Treasury was reviewing all the submissions from the department and their budget thereof. Because our emphasis is that when you appoint people, we need to focus on personnel that is going to deal with service delivery. So they were reviewing that, and that budget will come back to the department itself. I think that the last part of it is that we all know that there was this issue around e-toll, which issue impacted across all the departments within the province itself. Those are some of the reasons that are there. But if you look at the budget of
Sometimes all it takes is someone who listens, someone who sees, someone who cares. At UFM, we know that behind every voice is a story, a family trying to rebuild, a community holding on to hope, a child dreaming beyond their circumstances. This is why we have started You Cares. Not as a promise, but as an open hand, an invitation to share your story, your struggle, your work to uplift those around you. If you are in need or know someone who is, if you are building something beautiful out of very little, we want to hear from you. Send your proposal to help@ufm.co.za. That's help@ufm.co.za. We cannot promise to help every story, but we promise to listen. We promise to care, because You Care is about more than aid. It's about dignity. It's about humanity. It's about you. UFM, in tune with you. Terms and conditions apply.
Other guests, I just want you to touch on this. The province of Gauteng is the epicenter of hijacked, this hijacked buildings phenomenon. It's not unique to the province, and obviously it comes with some form of urban decay as well. I think people of Gauteng want to know about your plans to reclaim, the cities, to reclaim those spaces and to create safe living environments, especially for families.
Look, there's that issue, whilst it belongs to COGTA, but it cuts across department themselves, and it must be prioritized. If you look at even the budget that we passed, that issue has been prioritized. I think about 10 of the cities, there's going to be a focus on them, starting with Johannesburg. That's one. Two, we've got to integrate our plans together with municipalities, because that is not an issue that you can resolve alone. That's an issue that we can resolve working together with municipalities, putting our resources together. There's an agreement there that from an intergovernmental forum point of view, that's what we need to do. But we've got to go further and work with national government and bring together the security sector. Because the problem is bigger than what meets the eye. So we've prioritized that. It's in the APPs, the annual performance plans of the department itself. And as I said, it cuts across. They will be a lead department that will be playing an oversight on it to ensure that that part, there's an improvement on it.
I want to know, as a resident of Gauteng, are we going to win this thing? Are we going to win this war? Are we going to reclaim those buildings? This province is, everybody flocks to this province, but when it comes to cities, we want to see action in that space. Is there a commitment on your part that we can win this war?
No, we're going to win it. Look, I believe in what we call the law and order. And you can't have society that is not structured along that, unless we must close government and forget, and criminals do as they wish, which is not something that we want to see happening. If you look at what's happening in Johannesburg, for instance, we have started and we've brought in the private security people. That is also coordinated by the Premier within of the province, where you're bringing all the sectors that have interest on security of the citizens. And we are working together to ensure that we win this battle. Many people were evicted, those who are illegally staying or who have hijacked those particular buildings. We're identifying the kingmakers, the people behind. Where when we say people must pay for their services, they will say they don't have money, but there's a lot they are paying these people that have hijacked this particular building. So there is an intervention that has been made, working together with municipalities, and I think that we will come out victorious out of that process.
I think everybody wants to hear the sound of that. Thank you so much. We'll come back to you in a moment. And then we move on. It's the Committee Chairpersons Roundtable discussion on UFM. We're live from Gauteng Provincial Legislature. And I did indicate to you that we've got 3 guests. There's quite a few of questions to go through with different chairpersons and so forth. Anywhere during this discussion, should there be an issue that you want to throw in terms of a question, please use our WhatsApp number 076-260-2815. And then once we've concluded a round table discussion, then we'll open the floor and take your comments. The Gauteng Provincial Legislature wants to hear from you. And this is the whole idea of the discussion, really to engage, to get feedback, comments. Even if you want to send us compliments, I believe those will be welcome as well. At this point, I want to bring in Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Social Development, Tlo Chokwe, whose oversight department obviously is the Department of Social Development, the MEC there, Faith Mazibuko. Recently, she was in the news, making a comment about government employees and so forth. We're not going to deal with that at the moment. Let me welcome you and thank you so much for spending time with us and talking to the people of Gauteng this evening.
Once again, thank you very much.
I was looking through the oversight role that your committee plays as far as national priorities are concerned. And I was pleased when I saw rebuilding of family, community and social relations right at the top. Take us through the rest of the national priorities that your committee performs oversight on.
It will be provincial priorities. Well, they interlink with the national one. But what we can share with you is that as this committee, we are ensuring that we do the oversight on this department. And I would like to remind our viewers at home what are the important priorities. You will remember in Gauteng, we are having what we call Growing Gauteng Together 2030 priorities. So this is an oversight committee that will ensure that the department subscribe to that number one priority, which speaks to jobs, which speaks to the economy, and which speaks to infrastructure. And then it will not end there. It must also subscribe to that priority number 4, which speaks to the safety of our people, which speaks to the social cohesion, and the attacking or reducing the having a food security. So that is the important priorities that I will be, or our committee will be ensuring that the department subscribe to that. So part of it, they will have to work, have some budget that will support the what we call EPWP programs, where they will create some jobs, and it will be also important for this department to ensure that the shelters you were talking about, they are available for our homeless people and for our elderly people.
Allow me to zoom in. Social development with the high rate of unemployment that we're experiencing in the country, and obviously Gauteng is not spared of that. Social development will be a bridge too far if we can't solve the issue of unemployment. Share with us, if you may, and the people of Gauteng, what role does your committee, along with the department, play in creating employment, or at least fostering an environment with more employment opportunities?
This is not a department that you will see it playing a role in that high-level employment. But it is a department that works very closely with what we call the NPOs, non-profit organization. And that is where the bulk of the budget of this department goes. Now, we have to take care of the vulnerable. Now, if you take care of the vulnerable, you will have programs where you are instilling skills on all this, on all these beneficiaries, where they will have to come in, they get skilled, because they don't have to be dependent on the on government or on this department. So they've got beautiful programs, such the programs that are aimed at ensuring that they capacitate the beneficiaries in those NPOs. They take them to, you'll find an NPO that is responsible for capacitating young people, where they teach them plumbing, they teach them welding, artisan skills. And then once they have that, I saw the MEC today was accepting or attending a program where there were graduations of all these young ones who have acquired these skills. And these are the skills that these NPOs, we encourage them to plug them with different industries. And most of the time, we get good news that they've been absorbed to work in those different industries.
It's interesting that obviously the role of the NPOs cannot be understated. But let's tackle that issue of the department's position, as far as the relationship with the NPO sector in the province is concerned. I mean, this obviously follows budget cuts in the 2023-2024 financial year. What's the current status of that relationship with the NPO sector? How would you describe that relationship?
The relationship is they are tied to the hip, because they have to assist the vulnerable. Now, like I mentioned, that this department cannot survive without the NPO. And remember, we are a committee. And then as a committee on social development, we have realized that while there's a demand for a number of NPO to be involved in this department, we found that there is enough resources to find them, but you find that these NPOs have challenges of compliance. So not many of them are compliant. But then let's say you find them, then you get a situation where they apply in their numbers for funding. but then they have to be scrutinized, and then you get a low number of them that were not funded. So it is through this committee where we will ask the right question on behalf of the NPOs or the beneficiaries were, that why is there a number of NPOs that were funded? That is when we get satisfactory, when we hear from the department that no, there was the following reasons, but if there are NPOs that felt that they were not done justice on them, they are free to appeal. And then we monitor that appeal process, and we discovered that out of the, I think they received more than 2,000 applicants, or more than 1,600 applicants. And we were not that happy with the slow pace of signing of the SLAs, but we found that there were quite a number of them that signed those SLA. And then those that have appealed, I understand the process have been completed, and all of them, they have been given the verdict whether they succeed or they didn't succeed.
So the perception that the department does not want to increase work with the NPO sector is untrue.
Like I will always remind you, mine is the committee. Once there are such perception, it is my responsibility, or the responsibility of this committee, to ensure that that kind of a question, it goes directly to the department, and the department must answer that. Now, it is the responsibility of this committee to make sure that we apply the what we call the sector oversight model. Mm-hmm. Now, if such a question is brought, ours is simple. Apply that and also utilize the correct tools to make sure that we get to the right answer. Where we will look at it, is the program continuing? We say there are NPOs that need to be funded, and we see that there are less that are funded. Now, how are you going to meet your target if you are funding less NPO? Now, we're going to go, we even go to the level of visiting. While we visit the department, we go to the level of authenticating the NPOs to see to do what we call the information level test. So we can see that really this is an old NPO in Alexander that we know it has been assisting all the people that are on the street. It has been assisting all the old age people. Everybody knows that there is a kitchen soap in that NPO. Suddenly you wake up, that NPO was not funded. That's when we have to come in and see if really the reasons that are given to the committee that such NPO cannot be funded are true reasons. And most of the time you find that it was just a technical error. And then thanks to the people of Gauteng that they've put us here in this legislature to check for them that they are getting all those services.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that response. I think out of all the issues we're going to discuss tonight, that clarity is truly welcome, I suppose, to anybody that had any concerns about it. And to hear it from you in terms of the role that you play and the oversight role that you play with the department, I'm sure it'll put a lot of hearts and minds to ease. And their continued emphasis on how much of your work depends on your relationship with the NPOs. When we return to you, I'd love for you to talk to us about aspects of the National Development Plan, that you deal with as far as Gauteng is concerned. Committee Chairpersons Roundtable discussions on UFM. Malik Padkash Maloi, and I'm with Klo Chokwe. Just been speaking to him, and he is the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Social Development, where Mayor Faith Mazibuko is the MEC, and if you've just joined us, you would have missed out on our discussion with Mzi Kumalo, who's the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on COCTA, Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs in Gauteng. It'll be interesting. We'll return to Mzi Kumalo because there's quite a few issues we would like to understand. For example, how does issues of traditional leadership impact in Gauteng? And are these issues, unique to Gauteng compared to the rest of the country? And please allow us to introduce our third guest this evening, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Health and Wellness, Ezra Letswalo. Oversight department there is the Department of Health and Wellness, where the MEC there is Nomantu Nkomo Ralehoko. Thank you so much for making time to speak to us. I'm sure a lot of questions, that arise from, other portfolio committees will sort of have a direction to you. In a nutshell, how has the Portfolio Committee on Health in Gauteng fared in terms of executing its mandate of holding the department accountable in the previous quarter?
Thank you very much for that question. I really think in the last 8 months, the committee has really heeded the call to be fully representative, because that is the mandate that we carry as the portfolio committee, but also accentuating oversight in respect of a number of programs carried by the department. And I suppose one of them is ensuring a greater access to our facilities, but not only access, the kind of access which is qualitative, ensuring that there are necessary inputs in all of our facilities. So Gauteng, if you will, has got in excess of 369 health facilities, and those would be your primary health care facilities, clinics. And then you also have got 37 hospitals, public hospitals. So beyond the brick and mortar considerations, there is a need that you have got, adequacy of personnel in these facilities. You have got the necessary equipment. You have got availability of medicines. But there's also responsiveness of the facility. And I suppose all of these issues that would have been within our radar. And I believe strongly that the full complement of the committee has been able to converge at ensuring that the department carries that legislative mandate, because it is a legislative mandate.
In terms of budget spending, the health department is one of those departments that annually receive a lion's share of the budget. But we often hear of some departments, be it national or provincial, that do not fully spend their allocated budgets. How has the Gauteng Health Department performed in this regard? Are you satisfied with the committee, as the committee, in terms of how the budget was spent?
Look, my sense is that you ordinarily would want that a department spends 100% of its budget. So you could never really be, fully satisfied, because in an instance where there's a 1% which has not been spent, the computation of that might actually, be a lot more, as would be read by society, But I believe that the department does have necessary systems in place to effectuate on these resources. And we've seen an improvement in the manner and style in which how the department gets to spend these resources. Of course, there would be instances where there are those shortcomings. Some of them are attributable to weaknesses in financial planning. Of course, others could be external, given that they also function within a regulated environment. So certain things may not necessarily be able to happen within a specified time, given some of the applicable regulations that are there. But all in all, I think the department has done relatively well.
Okay. I'd like for us to go for a break, maybe give you gentlemen an opportunity to take a bit of water, and we'll come back and continue our discussion. Please do not forget, we stand waiting for your messages. I'm sure there's a lot of questions you want to put to all the three portfolio committee chairpersons that are guests this evening. As Ralizwalo has just been talking to us, chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Health and Wellness. It could be that you read a bad news item and you're looking for clarity. It could be that you visit your nearest healthcare center. You've got ideas. You've been wondering where to direct those ideas. Well, the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee is here to listen to you. Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, This is Mzigai Fani Kumalo. Of course, he's also here. There's a lot of issues for us to delve into. Again, you have ideas, you've got suggestions, you've seen some shortcomings, and you want to take him up on some of the issues that he would have raised. You use that WhatsApp number 076-260-2815. It could be that you have not saved this as part of your contacts. Please do so as soon as you can. The Gauteng Provincial Legislature, one of the three pillars of the legislature is to engage with you. This is not done for any other reason except for transparency and to engage you in dialogue. So use that number 076-260-2815. We also have Tlo Chokwe, who's the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Social Development, where MEC is Faith Mazibuko. Maybe this is the way that government should function, where government is not afraid through its different structures to present itself for scrutiny, to listen, to take in some of your concerns. Yeah, we return in a moment. This is UFM. If you're listening to us also on the UConnect app, welcome. We're live from Gauteng. We'll come back in a moment and continue with this discussion. Thanks for being in tune with us this evening. And accountability. And the idea here is that we're going to highlight how the committee work directly contributes to service delivery, oversight, and governance. And, through some of the criticisms that I would sort of level towards us as citizens is to say, sometimes after we cast our votes, some of us, we just retreat. We don't get involved in any of the structures that are provided, be it with whatever political party you would have chosen, but that's not why we're here, but also with the different legislatures and this platform that is being given to us by Gauteng Provincial Legislature is one of those that I believe should be emulated everywhere. This is to, obviously to promote transparency and accountability. We are nearing that opportunity where we're going to be taking your messages. Have you sent your messages as well? Look, we're expecting questions, we're expecting comments, and yes, we do take suggestions and even compliments as well. I don't suppose anyone can have an entire discussion and not have any compliments to share. We're not fishing for compliments necessarily, but if you have those, we'll take them as well. Use that WhatsApp number, 076-260-2815. And look, we're not going to be too fussy about the length of your voice note, but just be cognizant that we will probably have a lot more voice notes to take. So after the break, we're going to continue. I believe we will return to Mzi Kumalo. The question I want to put to him is just in broader terms, how strong are public participation structures? And maybe while you're there, address the importance thereof. I'd love to hear that coming from you. And the other issue that I'd like for us to deal with is, are we going to be seeing any establishment of any more metropolitan municipalities in the province? Gauteng there putting us under pressure. This is UFM, in tune with you. We're back in a moment.
Kali inaki warabile okhohle khawara elwe mweledi wa setheo sa ditshwanelo tsa botho mo Afrika Borwa mo province ya Bokone Bophirima. Banna kgang e simolla ka rona e seng ope gape mmogo re tla lwantsha le go fedisa tlhakako ya basadi le bana. Ke bua ke kgalema ke sena mathekganong le go le gopotsa le go le ka logakolola gore you don't call me a brother ha menagano ya gago le ditiro tsa gago di ikamaganya le tlhakako ya basadi le bana.
Don't call me brother. It's a UFM initiative against GBV and child abuse.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining us once again. If you've just tuned in and you're wondering what is going on, it's a special broadcast of the Committee Chairpersons Roundtable discussion. This is obviously at the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. And let's return to Mzi Kumalo, who's the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on COCTA. And I spoke about this a bit earlier on, and maybe we should jump into this very quickly. traditional leadership challenges in Gauteng. What sort of challenges do you face as far as traditional leadership in Gauteng? And are these vastly different to perhaps what's happening in the rest of the country?
Of this traditional leadership, you must recall that Gauteng is a melting pot where you find all these tribal and other nations. All of us are in Gauteng. So in Gauteng, there are two traditional authorities that are recognized. It's Amandebele Anzuza from Sokulumi and Amandebele Alibilo from Hammanskraal.
Only those two?
Yeah, those two. But there's a process that was set by the department. There was a commission that the Premier established, and all of these people who regards themselves as traditional leadership within the province itself have made a submission. We're still waiting for the final report around it. That makes Gauteng unique, because in other provinces, it is pretty straightforward issue. So you can't go to Tembisa, for instance, and say, I'm the traditional leader of this, of Tembisa or Soweto or whatever the area is. There's a difficulty there. But if you go to the some of the homelands or traditional communities, it is easy to because these are the people of Kekana, these are the people of Sorenso, these are the people of Sorenso. So it's easy to do that. So the challenge is very complex in Gauteng. I must say it's a difficult one in Gauteng, because some of these people will claim the entire Gauteng as it is. Some will claim part of Gauteng, some will claim part of the West Rand, part of Ekurhuleni, and all of those kind of things. And the big question is that once you say to them, okay, we recognize you, what then? How are you going to effect their authority to those people? That's what makes Gauteng unique. But we're waiting for that report, and we'll take it from there. Because traditional leadership is very important in our communities.
Are we going to see any establishment of any more metropolitan municipalities in the province, considering that you're putting, as a province, you're putting everybody under pressure?
Look, the department submitted to us as the committee that one of the APP, annual performance plan, is to establish or to create Gauteng as a metro municipality as such. In other words, adding more metro systems, and you will know that there will be two areas that would get affected, because you already have 3 metros. That would be Sidibeng and the West Rand that are going to be affected. As to whether you're going to have one metro system or 2 metro systems from those particular areas, it's something that is still there, that we're waiting for the department to come and say. But in terms of the budget commitment, there is that process.
Let's turn our attention to community work, with special attention to gender-based violence and femicide. My station, UFM, we have taken a position. It's not on a part-time basis, on a full-time basis, to condemn any acts of gender-based violence and femicide. As a matter of fact, all of us on the station, as part of staff, particularly men, we have committed ourselves to being at the forefront of this fight. And I can imagine that it's not a challenge that is unique to Gauteng, obviously, but being the economic hub with a lot of social complexities, talk to us about your strategies and progress in regards to fighting this huge battle that we have on our hands.
Look, one of the issues that we're looking at when we look at the plans of the department are there plans around GBV, and there's a commitment that each and every department in the province must have that program, so as to coordinate and put us all together to fight against any gender violence. In the legislature itself, we've got a men's forum, for instance, where the male folks at MPLs would have their own weekend out, bring experts, and talk about issues of gender violence as such. So we will not be able to pass any budget that has no GBV within itself as a program.
I'm asking this because you often hear, as negative as it is, when, a man is acting in a patriarchal sense, in a negative patriarchal sense, where they come out and say, I'm in Domzul, or so we justify our traditional identity when we act in this way. And that's why it was important for me to hear from your committee in terms of how you're working with the department. Now, to touch on an issue that you would have spoken about a bit earlier on when we started our discussion, are there any concerns that the committee has that you can share with us, along, with the resolution strategy? I can imagine that this issue, and there's a fancy acronym that you have for it, UIFW management, the unauthorized, irregular, and fruitless, as well as wasteful expenditure. Talk to us about that.
So, one of the issues that we need to deal with is those unauthorized, irregular, and wasteful expenditure, particularly the unauthorized, because sometimes people do not understand the irregular part of it. Irregular part of it does not necessarily mean there is waste. It means, for instance, we budgeted for a cow, but there was some emergency that came, and we had to buy a chicken. But money was used for a purpose that it was meant for. Secondly, it might mean that when the AG audit a particular project, let's say a 1 billion project, then the AG says, where was the advert? No, it was advertised, but where's the actual advert? The actual advert is not there. So information management then becomes a problem. And then they will say, because we didn't have this and that and that and that, then this become irregular. And they declare the whole amount irregular. But it doesn't mean the amount went to waste. That is why within that, you've got unauthorized and then you've got the wasteful. There is clearly the case of a wasteful expenditure. Now, one of the ways of dealing with this is through the MPECs, the municipal MPECs, where there's Section 79 committees with people that are capacitated to help us to deal with this. Part of what they should do is that where there's the case of the unauthorized and wasteful expenditure, they should identify, isolate all those issues, investigate them, and where possible, open up cases, criminal cases, and then report to the municipal council, and municipal council would be expected to report to the province's charge. Remember, the province will be aware of such because the AG would present a report to the Premier, a report to the MEC, and a report to the legislature as such here.
When we return, I'll give you an opportunity to make closing remarks before we take, a series of messages and calls. But in that closing discussion, I want you to reflect on this. There was a published article, this was back in March 2020, you may not be aware of it, which said that a quarter of the 110 senior managers in Gauteng municipalities were not compliant with minimum requirements. Obviously, this is a while ago. Furthermore, this report would have gone as far as saying that only 53% of the 2,747 municipal officials met the minimum competency levels. And like I indicated, this is way in the past. And I would like for us, for you, as we close off the discussion before we go to taking calls, to sort of paint a picture for us in terms of skills levels of officials that are tasked with delivering, your mandate to the citizens of the province. So we'll come back to Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on COGTA, Mzi Kumalo, and he'll deal with that question. And please send in your comments as well. Let's move to to the Gauteng Department of Social Development, the Portfolio Chairperson there, Chloe Choka. Welcome back. Just before the break, I did mention that I wanted you to reflect on which aspects of the National Development Plan that are you dealing with, and talk to us about the role that is played by social development in aligning, with to the plan.
The National Development Plan remained the overarching blueprint of all the plans in our country. So we are still being guided by the MTSF, which is the medium-term strategic framework, which I believe that we are coming from the elections. The last one we have was between 2019 and 2024, so most definitely the new one will be coming out, which will be for 2024 until 2029. So the important priorities in the NDP, it's none other than the same one that I mentioned earlier on, which is the inclusive growth and job creation, and the reducing of poverty and the tackling of high cost of living, which will bring me to, as we are localizing it, to our province, which will bring me to the Growing Gauteng Together 2030, which will now take us to the one of the priority one, which is, I mentioned, that is the economy, is the job, and the other one being the one to reduce hunger. So I will be very happy to go down to it, because this department is a department of a budget of about 5.4 billion now. I know you are still going to ask me about the reduced budget, but in that 5.2 budget, we have important programs. The first one being the program on social welfare. I don't want to talk about the first one, which is administration, where all the money goes to the salaries, but I want to go straight to the ones of that will make an impact, where we'll realize the vision of NDP. So the second one being children and families. This is where the bulk of the budget goes. But in terms of jobs, we are looking at this department to make sure that we realize the PPP, public-private partnership. And we want to see this department engaging lots of private sector, so that they partner with them and they give them all the programs where we'll be able to realize the job creation. So that is where we are looking at it, and we are assessing it, or we are monitoring, or we are oversighting on it, that when it's we look at the NBP.
There's also something exciting that I saw as part of your report, the committee's sub-program that is aimed at developing women in the province. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, we look at that one, and we locate it in the 3 programs that we spoke about. And it's not only women, it also includes the youth. So that is when you will see the department having these good institutions that they call child YCCs, and it includes women as well. So in such programs, we are expecting women to be truly empowered on the sense of it. Let me share with you what we have discovered in these institutions.
Sure.
in these institutions that we have done oversight on it. We've got like the institution like the Zanele Mbeki Care for the Old. This is where you will find that you are expecting this institution to empower the people around that. But we discovered that the department have centralized all its supply chain management programs, where all the contract in those institutions are centralized at head office. And we as the committee, we wanted to find out, when are you empowering your local people, and where we are looking at women will be easily empowered. Take, for instance, the 3 important contracts that are on a month-to-month basis, which didn't make the committee very happy. A contract like catering, which is on a 3-month basis to pay. A contract like laundry, because it's a big institution. If you look at the Modisa Gang also, the big institution. And then contract like gardening. We said to them, isn't it where we will be able to realize where women are being empowered and women coming from the local areas? Then that is what we, like my colleague said, once we do this oversight, or we call it the FIS, we come with questions that are relevant to the department. When we meet with them, we are able to see how they are answering us. Contract like in the secure centers, where we meet with young children who are conflict with the law. We found that yes, these are good institutions, but there are no cameras working. And we asked them, when are you going to have cameras that are working? And we were able to be told that by the end of June, the tender for cameras will be available, and then we are going to see when we meet with them whether they were telling us the truth.
I don't know, you obviously don't know this. Many years ago, I used to be homeless on the streets of Johannesburg. I probably would have spent about a year, sleeping at the park station and going to soup kitchens, throughout the city. All the way from Bethrams to the one in Braamfontein. I see that homelessness, which is sometimes related to substance abuse, is another challenge faced by the province. Are we winning this fight, at least in terms of prevention programs and rehabilitation? Can we safely say that at least we're in the fight and we stand to win, or can we say we're winning?
I will say the department has presented good programs to us. Ours is to make sure that we see for ourselves. Let us start with the simple one of homelessness. There are shelters, like I said, they're under a program that is called social welfare. The department is ensuring that all those NPOs that are advocating to take care of homeless people, they got enough funding. And we know that there will be the ones that are government-owned, which we believe that is the ones that we can measure them very well, and the NPOs that are doing such a critical work. Now, we visited one of the secure centers that is called the Fabian. Let me look at the name quickly. We visited Dr. Fabian Robiero Treatment Center. Then in Dr. Fabian Treatment Center, we discovered that its responsibility is to admit all these children that are affected by substance or their own substance abuse. Very beautiful institution. Let me tell you what are their challenges. Our laws allow a beneficiary to discharge himself. So you bring them there, you expect them that they will be rehabilitated, treated, but then, and in most cases, you find from children as young as 12 to old men as old as 60s. And they go in there, they get assistance, they rehabilitated, there are some skills that they get. But the problem is at any time they can stand up and say, I'm going home. And when they go back home, they are faced with the same challenges.
They
again.
relapse.
Because let's say you ask this person, why were you on substance abuse? I was not employed. The only thing I could do was to just take myself, drink to death. But you treat him, you take him back, then there is nowhere you can get assistance. That is where the NPOs are important. If you have a funded good NPO, they will be able to carry the burden away from government and continue with those people and give them more skills.
Let's keep working in that space. I compare, being homeless to drowning in a public swimming pool with everybody standing there. And I know you've got a lot of priorities, but among your priorities, you probably will find a stronger ally in me in that regard.
Let me share with you another beautiful story that we can share with our audience. So the department have what we call the buses. In these buses is a program where these homeless people can know that at the corner, Schubert and Pretoria's, you will find a social development bus where you can take a shower and then you go and do your work. Every day you go and take a shower in those buses, and so you can look decent. So these are programs that, as a committee, we encourage that they have to be done, but they also have to be monitored, because you don't know how many people came to take a shower in that bus and left. And somebody might simply say, I'm bathing more than 1,000 people here, only to find that there are only 80 people that are coming, and you have to foot the bill for that.
Where were you those many years ago when I didn't take a shower for like 2 months? I appreciate it. It's an important thing. We all come to this province looking for our way to our dreams. And it's heartwarming to hear that there are programs now that can assist an individual not to slip into that life. It might be unbelievable to you. There are people that I see sometimes when I come to, to the city, in a city. I recognize some of the faces that were there with me those many years ago. And obviously, talking to you like this today, I think they're getting an outlet as to how they can escape that life. And I think you must be congratulated for that. Thank you so much. We'll come back to you for closing comments. Let's move to, Ezra Letswalo, the Health Portfolio Committee Chairperson. There were some budget constraints, I believe, in the previous financial year. There had to be some reprioritization of certain items such as lab services, medical supplies, medicines, and municipal security services and so forth. Has this affected the quality of healthcare in the province? I hope not.
Well, to some extent, it does strangulate the ability of the system to be greatly responsive. Because as you can imagine, the catchment population in Gauteng of persons presenting themselves before our facility or needing health services, it's actually quite enormous. You have got a population exceeding 15 million people, and so if you will, the Gauteng health system, it's actually representative of a national health system, because it not only caters to Gauteng residents, aligning, provinces, Northwest, Mpumalanga, Free State, including some of the neighboring countries, Botswana, Swaziland, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, all rely on the Gauteng public healthcare system. So you can imagine, as and when there's any nominal reduction in the budget, it does tend to affect the ability of the department to be able to effectuate on their mandate.
Before we go to a break, another area of concern that was highlighted by the committee was the persistent delays in the payment of invoices within the prescribed 30-day period. Is this still a concern for the committee? Has the department shared a detailed action plan on how it intends to address this challenge?
Well, the department has presented mitigation plans, which is what we're constantly monitoring. Of course, we have seen some improvement, but we would want a situation where you no longer have to contend with the recurrence of, service providers having their payments being delayed. But of course, it's also subject to a range of other issues. In other instances, there are disputations on the invoices themselves. which also delays the process. In other instances, you also have core dependencies where a specific service provider could be appointed through some of the implementing agencies. And I'll cite an example. Previously, the department used to rely on the Department of Infrastructure Development for the facilitation of all their infrastructure-related programs, meaning building of clinics, hospitals, maintenance-related programs. And what you will find is that you needed to have a reconciliation of invoices, relative to the work output, and so on. So there has been instances where there may have been, challenges in respect of reconciling the actual, output as related to work and so on. So that on its own would delay, processes. In other instances, we've seen service providers are submitting invoices, despite the fact that they would not have done work, albeit qualitative. So there has been those kinds of, issues. But of course, the department does have a mitigation plan. I know they've articulated it. We've seen a reduction, but it remains within our radar. We're still seeing it, and hence it features in our report.
I'm going to ask that when you do your closing remarks before we go to the calls, you talk to us about areas where you believe the department is still underperforming. It's UFM live at the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. We're back after this break. Provincial Legislature, the committee chairpersons roundtable discussion on UFM. We're doing this to promote transparency and accountability. And we do this how? We're highlighting how the different committees that we're chatting to this evening, how their work directly contributes to service delivery, oversight and governance. It's a beautiful thing this when, government is not afraid to, send some of its leaders to engage with the people. We always complain. We make these jokes in corridors. We say, well, the last time you see them is after you voted for them. Well, it's not true in this case. And we're open to taking your questions, comments, suggestions, and compliments. We'll take them as well. I suppose 70% of my life is always on Gauteng. Every Sunday I'm here. I'll disclose one day what it is that I do here. It remains a province that I believe sets the tone for governance in particular for all the different provinces, including the Northwest Province. If you were listening to some of the speeches at the, the budgets today, you could feel that some of the little nuggets that we drop about Gauteng have come through. As Ralezwalo, who's the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Health and Wellness, is with us, and we've got Mzi Khumalo, who's the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. Very eye-opening discussions we've been having with these gentlemen, including Klo Chokwe, who's the Portfolio Committee chairperson for Social Development. Gentlemen, we're just about to go to the questions and comments and interaction with the public, but quickly, if I can, 2 minutes. We start with you, Mzi Khumalo. Your closing comments.
My closing comment is that we want to encourage communities to get involved in their wards, because things are happening at the ward level. And in the ward, you've got what you call a ward committee, and the ward committee brings together different sectors that exist within the communities. We think that would be a value-based kind of participation that they can be involved in as part of enhancing public participation. The second part of it is that we've prioritized the fact that municipalities must be developed to an extent that they are able to deliver service delivery and basic stuffs, water, electricity, roads, dealing with potholes, and all of those things. The last part of it is that we, on the skills development of municipalities, we've realized that in some instances we don't have proper skills. In some instances there's a mismatch of skills and all of those kind of things. When the department come to present a report to us, the first thing that, amongst the first things we're looking at is that what is the vacancy rate of this municipality? Have they filled all their strategic positions? What do you mean by strategic position? In other words, what kind of a personnel should be there? What are the requirements that are there? Have we met those particular requirements? Are all these people that are said to be municipal managers, CFOs, and so on, having the correct requirements and all of those kind of things? Yes, of course. If you look back, there was a lot of mismatch. People were just appointed without the relevant requirements, because when you've got a degree, it does not mean that you've got the right competencies to do that particular job. So we're going deeper. We're looking at all of those kind of things, including the competencies that people must have for them to perform a particular function within the particular municipality, so that this thing of capacity must be a thing of the past, because we need municipalities that will be able to can deliver all of these things that we spoke about. But we cannot survive alone in that. Hence, I'm calling for the greater public participation by our communities. When the legislature asks you to come and make submission on a particular process, please do so, because that helps a lot. We are from a demarcation process, demarcation board process. Some communities participated, some communities did not participate. And when your ward has been demarcated, then you'll start to complain. I wanted to find that you could have made a difference.
The people of Gauteng will appreciate the admission on the skills alignment. It's encouraging to hear that we're not just presenting a glowing picture. We're aware of the challenges and the admission as well. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much.
Let's go to Mr. Chokwe. Your closing comments.
My closing comments are that to the people of Gauteng, there is a committee on portfolio committee on social development that is looking after your department, that is responsible for about 5.4 billion rands. Out of that 5.4 billion rands, there is more than 4 billion that I can guarantee the people of Gauteng that it belongs to them. This is a service delivery budget of 4 billion rand, as we are removing close to 1 billion that goes to salaries. Now, on this department have about 4 important programs that I want the people of Gauteng to know that that is where their money is. And when they ask questions, they know that they can ask relevant questions under program number 1, which is very close to my heart, which is research and development, where there is a substantial number of money that has to be spent there. It covers the empowerment of the youth. It covers the empowerment of women and people with disability. As the chair of the portfolio committee, I've realized that the people with disability are not catered for. The department is not even shy to tell me that they are spending less than 1% on assisting people with disability. So as the chair, I'm watching them, and they must increase that budget to make sure that more of the entrepreneurs, people who own companies that are disabled, are able to get their shares in that. Now, the second program is on restorative services. We have seen an increase on the number of children that are in conflict with the law. So we are saying there is resources that are there. And then the challenge being that the challenge being that this number is exponentially very high. So the department has to make sure that they do something to make sure that these numbers go down. And I spoke of the CCTV budget, where in all our institutions we will be able to monitor what is happening there. We are going to look at the department on what it's doing. The other one is the children and families. That is where their money goes. So as the committee, we were very concerned about the homeless shelter program. That has to be taken care of, and we don't have sufficient homeless shelters in our province. So as the recommendation from the committee, we told the department that they should plan better rather than tell us that as they are busy building these shelters, because they were relying on the Department of Infrastructure, they end up surrendering the budget back to National Treasury. So they better plan much better than we can imagine. The last program, which is very important to us, is this one of the social and welfare, where all the NPOs have to be funded. We are aware that there is about 291 million that were given to the department last year, and we never got a clear answer on how the money was utilized until we got the information that the department has underspent with 108 million that went back to Treasury. And when we asked, they say they didn't understand, they underspent it on the bursary. So what does that mean? Most vulnerable children who passed matric couldn't get their bursaries last year. So as this portfolio committee, we are going to be checking for our people of Gauteng on how this budget is better utilized. Thank you.
Thanks so much. We close off with the Gauteng Health Portfolio Committee Chairperson, Ezra Lezwalo. And please touch on areas where you think the department is still underperforming in your closing comments, please.
Okay, but I would not run a mile, as would be my my colleague. Yeah, I'll tell you, one of the things that we hardly ever speak to, it's the makeup of our constitutional democracy. We sit here in a conversation that reflects, the representative component of this constitutional democracy. But the other fold of our constitutional democracy, it's a participatory involvement. So essentially, the legitimation of our constitutional project is such that you also need social compacting. So we need men and women in our society to be responsible. This year, what we call the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, it's an open institution. It's a parliament of the people. And I don't think the founding fathers got it wrong. It's an open parliament. And we expect that there should be feedback provided by society in respect of the content, the programs, policy outlook of all these departments that we are overseeing. But I suppose one or two things that constitutes our primary focus as the Portfolio Committee on Health and Wellness. So there's a feature now of wellness, because you can't have health without necessarily maintaining the well-being of, the residents of our province, but I suppose national, the citizenry. Is that we want the social compacting as far as ensuring that our own people look after themselves. They reflect their own lifestyles, what they eat, what they drink. Because ultimately, if they don't take care of themselves, it implicates the overwhelmed public health system. Earlier on, we reflected the number of people who are in Gauteng and beyond. Much of what we're seeing in our facilities is largely attributable to trauma, accident, incidents. And when you assess, you find that it's alcohol, substance abuses. This is what we're seeing, particularly over weekends, and that is why we need that social compacting. But we are of the view that the department needs to do the basics, ensuring that there's a proper, equipment in our facilities, ensuring that there's availability of medicines, ensuring that the kind of infrastructure that houses the provision of these services is intact, and it's functional. You have got hot water, you have got functional wards, but also, adequacy of healthcare workers. And healthcare workers can be both clinical as well as non-clinical, And I'm quite happy that there's a conversation now at national about ensuring greater investments in, recruitment of healthcare professionals or workers, if you will. We need specialists. That is why we must encourage, education. We must encourage young people ko magaeng gore a ba baleng. A re batle fela di doctor. South Africa ha ena problem ya gore ha e gone ho hira, mara batla di doctors e le gore di tsweleditswe dithuto tsa bona ko pele. So when there are these opportunities, are bana ba iswe go bo Cuba, ba iswe go bo take, re batla batho ba go bo rona to leverage this opportunity so that ultimately they get to anchor the quality provisioning of these services. Of course, there are challenges, and as you will have asked us, what are some of the things that we think the department must improve on? The department must move swiftly towards ensuring permanency of its a management component. We need permanent financial managers, CFOs, directors, chief directors. We need that so that we can rebut the challenge of accruals, the ever recurring challenge of accruals. Because just when the department is given a budget, the first thing that eats away at that budget, it's accruals. So no sooner we resolve that, I think, the better. The second thing, investment in infrastructure. How they now, has not invested greatly in the building of a newer health facilities. Of course, there's a number of those, but we need more. But in so doing, we also need to infuse the aspect of technology. So if we can expedite or fast track the digitization of healthcare provisioning, I think the better, so that you have got to improve the health outcomes as it relates to patient administration, clinical decision making, monitoring, surveillance, so that we can be able to prevent. We always said that prevention is better than cure. Yeah. What better way to do it than introducing these systems? So thank you very much.
Thank you. To all of you gentlemen, we truly appreciate it. Just when you thought, it was a feasible thing for you to lose faith in politics, you realize that any of the MECs that are appointed, they don't act with impunity. There is a committee that is led by a chairperson that holds them accountable to the deliverables. In my little world, I refer to these chairpersons as almost the VAR of politics. They do the balance and checks and so forth. So it's up to you and me to perform our civic duty, to participate. Time for us to get off that keyboard, stop being keyboard warriors, and look for opportunities in these structures for us to participate, for us to make an input. Singeke sikhathazwe ukuthi sinikezwa ithuba lokuthi sibanike imicabango yethu, to give them our feedback and so forth. And I want to apologize to you if you've just tuned in. I know that we promised you that we were going to start taking your messages a little bit earlier. We're about to do so, starting in the next 2 minutes. And we appreciate this opportunity. The Committee Chairpersons Roundtable discussion is on UFM. We're coming to you live from the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. And the gentlemen that are standing by to take your questions, as Raletswalo, who's the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Health and Wellness, and of course Mzi Kumalo, the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on COCTA, and of course Lo Chokwe as well, who is with social development. And of course we do so with acknowledgement of all the MECs of these departments that are in office, MEC Nomantunko Morale, and then also MEC Jacob Mamabolo and MEC Faith Mazibuko. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll start fielding your questions. You can send those through to us via WhatsApp, 076-260-2815. I will interpret some of those, for example, if it comes in a different language. But I do believe that all of us, who are on the broadcast this evening, we speak quite a few different languages. So feel free. Maybe we might have a bit of a challenge, but yeah, we'll find somebody who can help us with those questions. It's UFM in tune with you. Good evening.
At UFM, we believe that real change starts with real people. People who care, people who act, and people who dare to make a difference. That is why we have launched UCares, a community-focused initiative driven by our commitment to uplift, support, and connect with those making a positive impact or those who simply need a helping hand. We are calling on individuals, families, NGOs, schools, and community organizations who are in need or working on uplifting others to send through their proposals. Tell us your story, share your need, Help us understand how we, in collaboration with partners and stakeholders, can explore ways to assist. While we cannot promise support for every proposal, we can promise that every request will be reviewed with care, sincerity, and the spirit of Ubuntu. Send your proposal to help@ufm.co.za. That's help@ufm.co.za. You cares. Because when we stand together, even the smallest act of kindness can create a ripple of change. UFM, in tune with you. Terms and conditions apply. UFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to broadcasting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful to children, does not amount to hate speech, and contains no gratuitous violence or explicit sex. If you think we're not living up to the code, you may inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa, PO Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024, or email to bccsa@napsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
Good evening and thanks GPL and UFM. My name is Star from Naledi in Gauteng. My question is, how does this budget advance gender-responsive planning and budgeting to benefit women, youth, and persons with disability in Gauteng?
Hi, this is John Mahlangu from Soshanguve. I just want to know, how will this budget address the persistent service delivery backlogs that we've been having in our township communities, particularly in housing, water, and electricity infrastructure? Thanks.
Committees that the chairpersons that we have represent. The first one was about gender responsiveness, I believe it was. I think it goes to social development. Maybe talk to us about. Please run the question by us again, just so we can get the proper context there.
Good evening and thanks GPL and UFM. My name is Star from Naledi in Gauteng. My question is, how does this budget advance gender-responsive planning and budgeting to benefit women, youth, and persons with disability in Gauteng?
In relation to gender-responsive planning, and Star is in Naledi, I don't know if you want to tackle that from social development side. I think Star is of the impression that we're discussing a budget, which we're not this evening. But are there any plans that you can talk about as far as the department in relation to gender-responsive planning and protecting persons with disability?
Okay, or is it correct if maybe I might assume that on gender responsiveness is touching on the LGBTQ?
That is a strong possibility, yeah.
Yeah, so I know that the department is having program where they do awareness on those gender responsiveness, because I believe that our citizens have the right to choose who they want to belong to, which gender. And then in this department that we are overseeing, there has to be programs that encourage them to come out. And if there are NPOs that are encouraging them to be who they are, know that this department is really taking good care of them. Theirs is to visit our offices here in the legislature if they feel like their questions were not that well answered, so that I can get to know exactly what kind of information they would like to be assisted with, including whether there is a budget specifically for them to be assisted. So hence I was stressing that I am not happy with the budget utilization on the people with disability. I feel like we are not doing justice to them. It's like they don't exist, and they want to pitch them with the normal people, which is not the case.
And the question from the gentleman in Soshanguve has to do with housing. I don't think it falls within any of the ambits this evening. Let's take two more questions from upline.
Good evening. Thanks, GPL and UFM. My name is Dumi from Hartford. My question is, with these rising crime levels in the province, what portion of the budget is allocated to enhancing the community safety, policing support, and crime prevention programs? Thank you.
Sanbonani, the evening Gauteng Provincial Legislature. My questions to the chairpersons of the Portfolio Committee. Is there specific allocation to fast-track the maintenance and upgrade of critical infrastructure such as roads, clinics, and schools in undeserved areas?
I don't. I guess actually you can take that. On roads and clinics as well as well will take that for us. Let's run it by us again.
Good evening. Thanks, GPL and UFM. My name is Dumi from Hartford. My question is, with these rising crime levels in the province, what portion of the budget is allocated to enhancing the community safety, policing support, and crime prevention programs? Thank you.
Sanbonani, in the evening Gauteng Provincial Legislature. My questions to the chairpersons of the Portfolio Committee. Is there specific allocation to fast-track the maintenance and upgrade of critical infrastructure such as roads, clinics, and schools in undeserved areas?
The question is about fast-tracking the maintenance of clinics in critical areas. Is there a plan or an allocation in the budget to look at that specifically?
Well, there is a plan in Gauteng, and I suppose in other provinces there should also be a plan. Well, I'll tell you what the department has done is that historically the provision of health infrastructure maintenance would have been done by an implementing agency. I think we would have stated this point earlier on, which is the infrastructure department. Mm-hmm. But we've now seen a retraction of those functions being internalized within the department itself. And the department is also building capacity, to ensure that it expedites, meaning that it prioritizes, the urgent delivery of, a maintenance in all our facilities, including an increase in the infrastructure, a budget itself. We believe that it's something to be closely monitored, but we think that the department is in the right space.
Let's take another pair of questions. Thank you.
Sanbonani, in the evening Gauteng Provincial Legislature. My questions to the chairpersons of the Portfolio Committee. Is there specific allocation to fast-track the maintenance and upgrade of critical infrastructure such as roads, clinics, and schools in undeserved areas?
Open to taking your questions, comments, and even suggestions as well. We're using the WhatsApp number 076-260-2815. And this is after a lengthy conversation. 3 chairpersons of portfolio committees, putting us in the picture in terms of what is being done. It looks like our system is really failing us in that space. Please accept our apology. I think we've received probably a bigger number than we had anticipated, so it's kind of clogged up.
Oh, yes. Makes sense.
Let's apologize for that.
Okay. I was going to say one of the questions that is usually asked by our communities in respect of facilities and issues of dissatisfaction, because you do have people who are at some point or the other dissatisfied.
Sure.
With how services are rendered in our health facilities, and they usually do not know what are some of the outlets for them to be able to express their frustration. And I really want to emphasize this point, because one of the things that we are monitoring as the portfolio committee is the patient experience of care in any facility, And the department has got a duty and a responsibility to account on how they will have dealt with, patients' complaints, on their observations of how services would have been rendered. And as you will observe, and I think we need to encourage, the residents of our province that in every facility, there will be a box somewhere. Whereas when you are grieved, you are frustrated, you have encountered a situation where a nurse has presented themselves in a bad attitude, you must write and deposit in those letters, in those boxes. The facility has got a responsibility of accounting for every one of those complaints. If you are not finding joy, write to us as the portfolio committee so that we descend. Or if you are seeing any facility being in a bad shape or you are mistreated, write to us as the portfolio committee so that we can follow up in your respective issues. And I believe it would be the same for all other portfolio committees.
Most definitely, and thank you for that assurance. Those boxes are not there for cosmetic purposes. Let's get into the habit of working through the system. We don't burn facilities anymore. When we're unhappy about anything, it's not part of what we do. There's a statement that you often read about that when you stare too long into the abyss, it stares back at you. Into zakudala lezo man. Kuthi masingaphathekanga kahle sesihamba manje siye clinic sesoshisa mhlambe simosha nemigwaqo. Indawo zethu di blankets arona, we have a backlog historically anyway, and there's an effort here to address these issues, and let's work through the system. Let me thank all of you gentlemen, and wish you all the best with your respective portfolios that you're working through. I think I've already expressed my my appreciation in terms of the role that you play. For a lay person, for an ordinary South African, who might not, be politically savvy. The last thing I did was to pick a political party, and they put an MEC in the office. This has been an eye-opener. And I now understand that when an MEC stands there, it's not like they have a huge group of people who are spin doctors. Because, for us as lay people, the first thing you see is an MEC, and afterwards there's a spokesperson, and you reflect that with your councillor, and you imagine that, well, that's all they do. They're in office, and they're just eating, and they've forgotten about us. And I think it's great for us to discover that that is not the case at all. I see a few questions here that have been sent here. I don't know if we want to take them. Short staffing is one of the concerns that we normally encounter. A lot of unemployed doctors with no strategic plan on how to put them on the system, because apparently there's no funding for posts. I don't know if you want to take that, the issue of doctors, and
we have joined hands with the department. So we not only do oversight, we also immerse ourselves with some of the concerns that are genuinely raised by sections of society. And I think one of the issues that has been on the radar quite concerning was the moratorium placed from National on the recruitment of healthcare professionals. We had seen some bit of a stalemate in respect of a recruitment. It wasn't happening, and as a result, it affected quite a number of our facilities. But I'm quite happy now that the National Department of Health has ultimately resolved, jointly with the Treasury, that we should prioritize this aspect. And we are now seeing mobility in respect of that. Over the period of the last 3 weeks, we have seen the department advertising posts across a different disciplines, so that we do recruit adequacy of doctors, of specialists, of midwives, of non-clinical staff, your porters, security personnel, and all of that. So that specific concern is currently being addressed, and we are really just looking into how it gets to be rolled out. But I also need to emphasize the public health system also requires a specialists. We need specialists more than we need just a general practitioner. So no sooner we get our people to be trained, no sooner we get our people to access these educational opportunities, I think they will also complement the demand of the public health system.
And it seems like a lot of the questions that are coming in through text are directed largely towards health. You want to weigh in on the issue of undocumented foreign nationals believed to be overwhelming the health system because the number doesn't match the treatment available?
Quite a concerning issue that has been topical. But of course, South Africa is a constitutional, a democracy. It functions through laws. We make and pass laws in our respective parliaments. On the one side, I think as the legislature, particularly the portfolio committee, we sympathize with the views expressed by different sections of our community in respect of, throngs of foreign national accessing our health facilities. But you will recall that there's a historical aspect to it, and of course, without necessarily diminishing the voices of, the residents of our province, is that we need to go about this process in a more legal fashion. And one of the platforms that are now, being created is the national dialogue, so that we reflect some of the difficulties as well as the truths around what needs to be changed. It is, arising a concern which has been vociferated in different platforms. And I think our leaders have also taken heed of these concerns. We think that at an appropriate point in time, there will be, thoroughgoing reflections which might potentially lead to a rethink of our policies, a rethink possibly of our own constitution, because currently our constitution does allow for persons, every person residing within our country to be able to access health facilities, but without diminishing those inputs.
In the interest of transparency and accountability, this broadcast has been brought to you by Gauteng Provincial Legislature. Thanks to all of you gentlemen, committee chairpersons, roundtable discussion on UFM. I think we need to have a rerun of this. I think we need to have this on a regular basis. Gauteng people, you are very fortunate with this. It's the one of the three pillars of Gauteng Provincial Legislature, your participation. If there's a last thing I'm going to say to you is, these committees are waiting for your input. They're waiting for your comments. They're waiting for you to assist them in their oversight work. They're not working in silos. They also work together, and they're just waiting for you. Thank you for listening. Thanks for caring. And good night.
In tune with you.